this week's episode of One Piece, Usopp the Sogeking himself proves yet again that he's got the sniper skills to pay the sniper bills. This week's episode was pretty freaking legendary. It's one of those One Piece episodes that's going to go down as a classic. Not so much for the animation, more for the story moment. This is the episode where Usopp uses Haki for the very first time in this ridiculously long-range slingshot attack, which he uses to take out Sugar. This was a really great episode, filled to the brim with tension. If I only had one complaint with it, it's that the pacing was a little off, and there were some animation sequences which mostly involved King Riku and their group fighting against these goons and soldiers who were climbing up Kanjuro's ladder. That was basically just still images which were being shaked around, but everything else with Usopp was handled really freaking well. This is without a doubt one of the craziest shots that Usopp has ever made, and the moment where he finally does pull off the attack, I really think is one of those just classic Usopp moments that's on par with like that one scene during the CP9 arc where he actually shot the world government's flag. This was a moment that was very similar to that, except I love how he actually performed the shot, and I love the build up to it, because first he has this dream in his head where he actually fails and ends up just hitting the side of this castle, and then Sugar just ends up touching Luffy and turning him into this weird-looking robot Frankie doll. He then finally gets his shit together, and that's when he finally activates his Haki. He doesn't even realize what's going on. Everything turns blue, and his targets are actually illuminated, and he can actually see the outline of Sugar. That's when he does this amazing shot, which shoots off, explodes a couple times, and then ricochets horizontally, going through this window, and then getting right in Sugar's face, and then transforming into this goofy version of his face that was the one that freaked out Sugar. She sees it as it gets right up in her grill, and she just immediately passes out. It smacks into the wall, and that's when we realize that this was actually a creation which was made by Kanjuro, just demonstrating he's got some amazing abilities, and just imagine what else he could create that Usopp could shoot. Kanjuro, I think, is another freaking candidate for next Straw Hat Pirate. There are so many interesting characters with interesting abilities, and they're all just so cool. That's what's so great about the Dressrosa arc. So Usopp is the hero. Everyone loves him. It's a big triumphant moment, because right after this, Luffy and Law are getting ready to fight against Doflamingo and Treble. To be continued, screen. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of One Piece Classic? A classic Usopp moment which was handled really well and didn't really need to have such ridiculous, crazy animation, but they did sort of have some issues with the pacing at the beginning. The first half is really just all the build up to Usopp finally getting ready to fire it, and the second half is him actually using the abilities with his Haki and taking out Sugar. There's also a few scenes with Sugar where she's trying to entice Law and Luffy by tricking Luffy with the grapes, and because, you know, he's obsessed with food, he's totally gonna get into that, but really it doesn't go anywhere. It's just more of the build-up to her eventual defeat, and I love the fact that Usopp always has a little bit of comedy behind his attacks, because as badass as he can be sometimes, he's still a really funny character, and he kind of has to be. His overall design just sort of says, this guy is freaking hilarious, especially with his big goofy nose. But Usopp gets all the ladies. In this week's episode, freaking Violet was in love with Usopp after he performed that attack, so that's going to be really great and boost his ego. I really can't wait to see more of what Usopp's going to be capable of as the series is going to go on. Usopp is one of my favorite characters of the series. I think he's fantastic. The end of the episode was really great because it just shows that shit is about to get real. Doflamingo, Treble, top of the castle, wind blowing, birdcage in the background. That was an awesome atmospheric scene that's got me really pumped up to see what's going to go down in the next couple of episodes. So overall, even though the pacing was a little off in this week's episode, this is an episode that all One Piece fans need to see. It's a pivotal moment for Usopp, and it was handled pretty decently. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 4 out of 5. Check it out, One Piece fans. If you're reading the manga or you're watching the anime version, check this one out. You might see something you like. So I really liked this episode quite a bit, but what about you guys? What did you think of Usopp's very first Haki moment? Please tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of the One Piece series in the big battle with Luffy and Doflamingo. Thank you guys for watching my review. Make sure to like it, share it with all your friends, and subscribe to the channel. That way you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews, and make sure to also follow us on social media. Dragon Ball Z fans, get excited. They just released the very first teaser trailer for Dragon Ball Super. I did a video about it, and you can also check out the trailer with a link in that video. I will put a link for that at the very end of this review. Check it out, guys. So thank you again for watching, and remember, as always, stay dandy, baby.